So I've been outside in Skyrim probably more than I've been outside in real life, and this game has been ported to more devices and consoles than the Bible, and probably has about the same amount of faithful followers. And though I love Skyrim, I also love Pokemon, and the question is, can I beat Skyrim as a Pokemon trainer? So I'm not modding the game at all for this. However, I am going to play like a Pokemon trainer, which means I can only fight using conjured creatures or animal companions, and I am myself allowed to do no fighting. Though, like in Pokemon, a trainer can heal and give buffs to their Pokemon, so spells that do just that are going to be okay. I start off by picking a Breton because they're the only race that starts with a conjuration spell, and that lets me send out our starter Pokemon. I, of course, make my character as true to Pokemon form as possible, name myself Ash Ketchum, and begin my journey to catch 'em all. This is definitely the darkest start of a Pokemon game I've ever seen. However, I'll admit that it would add a lot of depth to the series if they included a beheading or two. Anyway, before I'm getting ready to get a bad haircut, I'm saved by Rayquaza. With death narrowly avoided, I start fleeing from Reshiram, who busts through the tower. I then jump out of the hole he just made and watch a child almost get barbecued. Anyway, I make my way to the end, and then I got a choice to make. Red or blue, Ruby or Sapphire. I go with Sapphire because that was the game I always played growing up, and also they didn't just try to send me to meet Arceus. After getting my Pokeball arm free, I am prepared for my first battle, which goes poorly. Yeah, I used my one and only starting wolf Pokemon, which immediately gets stomped by the first two enemies in the game. I pretty much just leave it up to Rayloff to take care of them as I cower in a corner. Cool thing though is that in this game, my wolf is called Ash Ketchum's Familiar, which feels authentic, but I'm going to call him Steve. I move on and give it another try against the second enemies in the game, and it goes about the same. Steve is about as offensive as someone who's really into political correctness. He dies quickly and Rayloff finishes them off. I run downstairs and take on a torturer, finally win a battle, and get to use my first HM, lockpicking. Getting some mage gear is going to be real great for me being able to revive more Pokemon quicker, and I feel like I'm going to need a lot of Steves. We keep moving, I spawn another Mon who gets thwacked. Rayloff thwacks a Team Rocket member so hard they attempt to blast off again, but then they realize that we're underground. I get down the tunnels and I'm almost out of the prologue when I get to my first gym battle, a single bear. Finally, I'm no longer outmanned, so I think I've got a fair shot at this. But yet again, my wolf Steve just gets pounded into oblivion. I ascend to a rock to hide, and then recharge my magic while staring at the bear, just contemplating all the life decisions that have led me to this point. After charging up enough to revive Steve, we finally win and begin our adventure in the new Pokemon region of Skyrim. I go outside and immediately ignore Rayloff. I make my way down to the Mage Stone because I'm going to need all the help that I can get. Then, as I continue forward towards Riverwood, I'm attacked by 3 alive normal versions of the wolf that I've been using. Apparently, they didn't get the memo that normal can't hit ghost because they ravage my poor Steve. I finally make it to Riverwood and take the quest to retrieve the Golden Claw because it's going to be right next to the Dragonstone, which I need to get anyway, so why not? But as I make my way up to Bleak Falls Barrow, I have the most annoying fight I've ever had in Skyrim because Steve refuses to attack the person right in front of me, charging me with sharp metal, and instead he goes off to be inside and make friends. I run around this tower in circles like a really enthusiastic amateur NASCAR driver, and eventually, after many revives of Steve, defeat them. I head on up to Bleak Falls Barrow to discover it and then flee for my life, because I'm definitely going to need some better Pokemon to come back and deal with this, because Steve is not cutting it. So I cry while sprinting all the way to Whiterun, but eventually I'm let in and I get to go talk to the court wizard Farengar, who sells me a Summon Flame Atronach spell, which gives me my second Pokemon, a literal on-fire woman who I name Alicia Keys, because this girl is in fact on fire. So I gotta let the Jarl know that Kyurem attacked Helgen, and he goes, go talk to the court wizard, which I already did. So I go and talk to the court wizard, who goes, go to Bleak Falls Barrow, which I already did. And so now I'm feeling like I'm working in reverse. But, as established, I'm not gonna be going back there anytime soon, especially without backup. So instead, I get a carriage and go to Morthal. Once I get to Morthal, I set my sights on Miko's shack, which is a place where theoretically I should be able to get a free animal companion named Miko. He's a lovely alive dog, which I'm hoping does more damage than my dead dog, Steve. Once I get there, I don't see Miko, but I do hear some spiders out back, so I spawn Alicia to see how she can fight, and turns out really well. She has an area of effect damage thing around her, so if anybody gets too close to her, they get lit on fire, which, man, as an introvert, wish I had that power. Once Alicia's done cremating the spiders, I end up going back inside the shack where I see a dead guy next to a journal. I pick up the journal and apparently this guy used to be Miko's owner, and Miko should be around somewhere. But spoiler alert, he's not. So I end up looting most of the shack trying to trigger a spawn for Miko, but it never happens. I even take a power nap next to his dead owner, which in retrospect was a little creepy, but he never spawns. So I end up swimming across the river to Solitude, where I get a carriage, this time to go to Riften. Once there, I immediately run off to where I think the Dawn Guard is located, run into some alive Steves, and summon Alicia to sort it out. I keep running into more breathing Steves who get Alicia'd really hard, and then I keep running in circles until I eventually find the cave where the Dawn Guard DLC starts. I go and talk to the leader of the Dawn Guard. His name's Ezron, and he tells me that apparently there are some vampires located at this place called Dim Hollow Crypt. And since I raised my hand first, I have to be the one to go sort it out. But again, I'm not going anywhere towards battle until I have another Pokemon. So instead, I hop in a carriage and go to Markarth, where I purchase a dog named Vigilance from the cannibal guy. Yeah, he trains them on people, so that's why they're really good at fighting, but also scary. Then I take Alicia and the good boy, and I'm thinking that we're probably going to be able to sort out this vampire problem, no issue. As I start sneaking my way into the crypt, I think, you know what? Steve deserves another shot. So I summon him, pair him with Vigilance, and I think they can take out the single vampire dog. But the problem is, they can't. I think my good boys are way more into cuddles than they are combat. Then I summon Alicia, who does something I think PETA would be very uncomfortable with. I keep making my way through Dim Hollow, and then for the first time ever, Alicia gets taken down. But good news, apparently, she was holding a grenade and had the martyrdom perk because she just explodes with fiery vengeance, which is good information to have, knowing that I can take on higher level enemies and just keep throwing her at them like a kamikaze. Next, I hear a Vigilant of Stendar who's being interrogated by some vampires. As I sneak a peek to see what they're talking about, I must have farted because they end up killing him and start searching for me. I then summon Alicia to go deal with it, and she hasn't really mastered the idea of ranged attacks yet. And that's why I sit here watching her fight a staircase for a considerable amount of time. This vampire must not have realized she had teamed up with the stairs, because as she ascends them, getting out of cover, Alicia sends her blasting off again. I make my way down to a button that's supposed to help me with a blood sacrifice, but in classic Skyrim fashion, it glitches, so it ends up looking like it stabs me in the throat, which definitely would have ended the run. However, my guy shrugs it off, ends up completing the puzzle, and releases Serana, who I really do try to catch, but I whiff and she falls to the ground. We chat, and apparently she just wants some help getting home, and like an enthusiastic Uber driver, I accept. As we're making our way out of the cave, though, I notice that when we fight, she ends up spawning skeletons and Draugr to help us fight, meaning she's a Pokémon trainer too. We're finally having some double battles. With her undead and my Alicia, we end up making our way towards the second gym battle. They've even got a stadium for this one. It's really cool. And like a good middle manager, I take a seat and let my underlings do all the work. Eventually we win, and we're heading on out. Feeling good after the victory over the second gym, we end up taking Serana back to her castle, which I hadn't noticed existing until I downloaded the DLC. Weird. Huh. Anyway, after that, I end up walking inside, and they've got all these lovely people that are tied down to tables, as well as these weird stakes. They say human flesh. I'm gonna ignore that. I then talk to Harkin, who informs me that he is in fact a Pokemon. Like Zoroark, he transforms. And I think for a brief moment that I should become a vampire so that I can also be a Pokemon, but I decide I should probably stick to just being a Pokemon trainer, and I'm shipped back outside to go talk to the Dawn Guard. Then I go to recruit Gunmar, who apparently has gotten into the extreme sport of bear wrestling while not hunting vampires, and I decide to help him. I rush into the cave and figure out it's going to be a 3v1 bear fight, which doesn't look great, but thankfully Alicia uses self-destruct, Gunmar used taunt, which draws their fire, I summon another Alicia, and we take the victory. Back at the Dawn Guard HQ, I can go talk to our newest recruit Gunmar, who can sell me my next Pokemon, an armored troll, who I name Rick Astley, after the greatest troll song of all time. The problem is I have to get rid of Vigilance for this, however, since his skill set mostly consists of running into battle and getting pounded into mulch, I'm kind of okay with that. With my new Excadrill-looking armored troll, I head back to Bleak Falls Barrow to start my first official main story quest. And man, this took a while to start. But when I get back there, I summon Alicia, who does all the work, as my armored troll just sits at the bottom of the stairs and pounds the ground, doing nothing at all. I descend further into the dungeon, where I use HM Cut to open up another room, and then a giant spider drops from the ceiling. Rick finally decides to participate in battle, but Alicia still does most of the work. I then go cut down Arvel the Swift, who proves his name is very apropos, as he darts off deeper into the crypt. After losing Arvel, I make my way through the dungeon, where eventually I find his corpse. Apparently, he ran headlong into a swinging gate trap, which killed him instantly. I loot his body for the Golden Claw, because that's going to be important later. And later is now. I end up using the Golden Claw on this door to try to open it. Apparently, I can't read symbols, though, because that's all you have to do, read the symbols and put them in the door. But it took me 2 attempts, which means that I am a special type of idiot. After figuring out that square pegs do in fact not go in round holes, I end up making my way to the third gym leader, a Draugr Overlord, the boss of the dungeon. But with Alicia's area of effect constant damage that she has, he goes down pretty swiftly. And even Rick decided to participate, which good for him. I end up taking the Dragonstone and head back to Whiterun. After I return, I talk to the Jarl, who tells me that apparently one of his watchtowers is under attack by a dragon, which I don't understand why that's my problem, until very shortly after I'm voluntold to go help. I get there and summon Alicia, who does all the work fighting Dragonite, while everyone else just sits around and watches. Way to go, team. Once Dragonite's down for the count, I end up absorbing its soul, which again, I think would add a lot of depth to the Pokemon universe. It would definitely horrify the audience, but I think it would be some really good character building. As I make my way back to the Jarl to take credit for what Alicia has single-handedly done, I end up getting yelled at from the sky by the Elite Four. Apparently that's just how they communicate in this game. I'm told that the Elite Four in this game are called the Greybeards, and apparently I should go talk to them to get better at yelling at people. It's like a training camp for Karens. But before I go get better at speaking to the managers, I end up taking a carriage to Winterhold so that I can go to college that teaches magic. It's like a post-secondary school Harry Potter experience. Once I make it to the college, I end up doing circles for a while, just trying to find that one instructor that can teach me the thing I want to know, which is conjuration. Eventually I do find him, I give him all my money, and he teaches me very little. Essentially, I get the full college experience. After that, I do set off to go find the Elite Four. Once I end up making it to the Elite Four's chambers, they tell me they want me to yell at them, which I think is pretty kinky, but hey, not here to judge. After giving them a forceful tongue lashing, they tell me that they want me to go find a horn from some guy that they used to know. I don't know, but I've got other plans, so I'm off. Instead of polishing their horn right off the bat, I decide to go back and talk to the Dawn Guard because I am so sick of walking everywhere. I need a horse, but specifically a purple horse because I bought Violet and I'm a brand loyal kind of guy. Anyway, we then have to go break into Serana's dad's house to talk to her mom without her dad knowing. Oh, wow. Talk about family drama. Turns out her mom used her study to create a portal to another dimension, like a ye olden Rick and Morty. You know, as you do. And so I get half my soul trapped by Serana and enter the Soul Cairn. The Soul Cairn is exactly where I wanted to be for this run, because I can pick up 3 new Pokemon, specifically Bone Man, Wrath Man, and Mist Man, which sounds like an awesome rap group. However, my greatest reward from coming here is picking up Miriadon. They're gonna call him Arvac, don't worry about it. Finally, with my purple noble steed, though, I can go through the world without exclusively walking like a ye olden Jehovah's Witness. Also, while walking through the Soul Cairn trying to pick up these Pokemon, I end up catching an ice spike to the chest and am immediately sent to the afterlife. Thankfully, I pray to Dialga so that he can rewind time, and I am able to continue on my quest. I eventually go and get to meet Serana's mom, because I guess things are getting serious between us. But her mom tells me that apparently, in order to date her daughter, I have to go defeat her evil ex-boyfriends. So I get ready to go Scott Pilgrims versus the world on these monstrosities. In typical Michael Cera fashion, I end up cowering in a corner and crying, hoping that the woman that I've summoned is much more capable than me in combat. Thankfully, Alicia is, and I end up defeating her evil ex-boyfriends. When I eventually return to go talk to her mom, she then tells me that the last test is to defeat her favorite childhood pet, which is a pretty dark twist to this story. After defeating her former pet Noiverim, I end up taking their version of the Bible and then go and search for that part of my soul that I sacrificed to be able to enter the Soul Cairn. After reuniting with myself, I end up leaving the Soul Cairn, where I realize I cannot find Rick Astley. Turns out he did give me up, and he did let me down. I end up heading back to the Dawn Guard, where I decide not to purchase another Rick Astley, so instead I go back to my sophomore year of college, where I give them all my money and learn very little information. I eventually make my way back to Whiterun, where I run into this guy who claims to be my rival, challenging me to a magic duel, but I tell him no, but he will not take no for an answer, so I eventually summon Wrathman to see how he does in battle, and then he immediately gets set on fire and runs away for his life. Fan-freaking-tastic. Eventually, Wrathman does come around and decides to beat my rival to death, which, unlike the Pokemon games, means that I think there's a very slim chance we're ever going to find him later. I make some money selling everything I own, and then make my way back to college for my junior year, where again, I learn very little information and give them all my money. But you know what? It's summer vacation. I'm going to go to the place where everything's happening. I got attacked by some cultists earlier that mentioned this place called Solstheim. Let's go figure out what that place is about. Once there, I make my way to the big mushroom houses, but they won't tell me anything or sell me anything, which is a bummer because I know that they've got Pokemon books inside. So instead, I just head towards a hut filled with sentient Pokemon and get asked by their leader to help out. First off, I need to help him find his lost pet. And second off, I need to slaughter some of my fellow man, which is really quite an escalation. Once me and my army of Machops have defeated the Nords, the lead Machop decides he now needs to fight me, which does not make a lot of sense to me. Okay, we need some help taking out these enemies. Better get this guy. He was really good at taking out our enemies. Let's kill him. Very strange. All the subordinate Machops decide that's a terrible idea, so they join me in attacking the king, who goes down, but does not die. And that's the problem. Every time he goes down, everybody stops attacking him, including my companions. Then he stands back up for round 2, 3, and 4, and we continue to do the same dance. The thing is, I have to be the one to finish him off, which feels wrong. I eventually do summon my big Karen voice to go speak to the manager, and that does kill him. But it feels like cheating, so instead, I'm going with a different approach. Out of pure frustration, I head back to the Skyrim mainland, where I decide to go drink away my problems at a bar. Well, more of a drug den, to be honest. I go into Redwater Drug Den, and down there, I find the telekinesis spell. Because my theory is, I can't physically kill this guy. But if something happened to fall off a shelf and hit him with extreme force, well, that just sounds like a tragic accident that I had very little to do with. So I come back to the mead hall, throw out Wrathman, who goes hard to the paint, and then I toss a beer bottle at him like an angry soccer fan, and boom, the king is down for the count. Now that the Ashfire Mead is apparently the usurper of the throne, I'm still for some reason given the credit and can recruit a Machop to my side. With my Machop in tow, I head down to the old city for our 4th gym battle. I'm excited because he's a fighting type and we're going up against mostly steel types, so we should have the advantage. The thing is, we didn't. Machop went down nearly immediately, and I had to have Alicia finish everybody off along with Wrathman. After that, I did end up unlocking this Iron Spider Pokemon, who I named Peter, as in Parker, and add him to the team while getting rid of Machop. Shortly after that, though, during the second round, I unlock an Iron Soldier to come fight with me. So we defeat the 3rd level, and turns out our reward is nothing at all. Didn't need to do that, and now I can just move on with Tony, my new Iron Man, and of course, my 4th gym badge. Now it's time to get back to the main quest and start going back for the Horn of Who Cares. So Alicia and Tony have no problem defeating the spiders and the undead, which leads me to where the horn is supposed to be. But instead, I just find a note that says the horn has been horn-napped, and I need to go back to the first town I started in to get it back. I meet with Delphine, who takes me down to her special dungeon, and though that sounds sexy, it's just a place where she's got maps and books, so unless cartography gets you off, it's gonna be pretty much a buzzkill. So she tells me she wants me to kill a dragon to prove myself, which dang, lady, I already Scott Pilgrimed versus the world this thing. I think I've proven myself enough. Or more accurately, I've watched as Alicia has proven herself quite a bit. So I run to Kynes Grove and watch as Palkia revives Latias, who immediately begins attacking me. I cry for help and run away as Alicia and Tony deal with the dragon. And this fearless display of cowardice is enough to convince Delphine that I am in fact the Dragonborn. With Latias, the 5th gym leader, defeated, I take my horn back to the elite Kinky Four, who decide they want to baptize me in their voice. And I don't have the heart to tell them that it's not really my thing, so Tony and I just stand there, flaccid, waiting for them to finish. With my 5 gym badges, Delphine lets me know I'm officially invited to the Cool Kids party. After Mom drops me off at the Thalmor Embassy, I go in and meet the head Cool Kid. After that, I get a drink for a guy who distracts everybody so that I can go hide in the corner and play D&D. With my gear back, I end up finding a breakaway group of the Cool Kids who were smoking the marijuanas. And so I sent out Alicia, who's my favorite joint lighter, but secretly she works for Dare. So she starts wrecking a house in a way that can only dare to resist drugs and alcohol. I was a little concerned about possibly getting a contact high, so I did in fact close the door while Alicia fought them to the death. So I continue sneaking through the Cool Kids' house with Alicia when eventually I find our buddy Etienne, who's been chained up so that he can do all the jocks' homework. We release him. And then I find this burn book on this guy named Esbern. Apparently he's super important. Then the Cool Kids come in threatening Malburn, saying they'll kill him if I don't come out, but then I go and stand right next to them and they don't seem to notice me. I even try talking to them, and apparently I've transcended to be Nerd God because I actually am invisible to people now. They finally find me in my super tenacious hiding spot of standing still right next to them, where I summon Alicia, who burns them to a crisp. Malborn is super put off by this, because now apparently he's got to run to the ends of the earth so that the Thalmor don't find him. But good news, the ends of the earth come a lot quicker than Malborn probably expected. We drop down into a dungeon, and Alicia can't deal with the ice troll before it ice punches Malborn, and he's down for the count. I go back to Whiterun so I can sell some items, and I notice that the world hasn't fully loaded in. Well, hey, at least they haven't had like a decade to patch the bugs out of this game, right? Right? Anyway, I go back and talk to Delphine, who wants me to go find Esbern. She would do it, she swears, but she's really busy right now staring at this table. I make my way down into the Ratway to find Esbern, but instead I find my first pet of Skyrim, a skeever named Scritch. I'm gonna call him Ratata. We keep looking for Esbern, who I do eventually find. He lets me in for a chat real quick and agrees to join me at Delphine's. I then run back to Delphine to tell her the good news, and then she tells me I'm an idiot for not bringing Esbern with me. I then turn around and notice that only Tony and Ratata are behind me. Feeling like an idiot, I trek all the way back to Esbern's room, which, don't worry, wasn't at all annoying and out of the way. I make sure he pulls up his big boy pants this time, and we go all the way back to Delphine's. Esbern and Delphine talk, and apparently we need to go see this sweet graffiti on this dragon wall, so I fast travel to Markarth and summon Arvak to take us towards our destination, but just look at this game! For some reason, it is loading me like I am underwater when I am clearly well above it. I have no idea why. I try to use rock climb with Arvak, but because I can't see 5 feet in front of me since I'm, above underwater, he doesn't know the move rock climb, and we plummet to his death. Thankfully, I survive by landing in a river. And then we make our way up the temple where we get to the blood sacrifice portion, which I know you're thinking, that's not Pokemon canon to have Ash die, but that's only if you haven't seen the episode The Tower of Terror, or 1998's Mewtwo Strikes Back, or Lucario and the Mystery of Mew, or Pokemon I Choose You, or Pokemon Ranger in the Temple of the Sea, or the Victini movie. Look, Ash dies a lot. In fact, if I didn't make a blood sacrifice, it might not be a Pokemon playthrough. Anyway, we stare at this wall for a while and decipher that it wants me to get better at yelling, so sure enough, I gotta go back to the Kink 4 to learn another yell. They teach me the HM for defog, which I think is pretty helpful, and I used to get to the top of the mountain to meet the Kink Lord himself. He demands a spicy yell, so I do, and he tells me I need an Elder Scroll. But before I get the Elder Scroll, I need a goat. So I get on Meriadon and start heading towards Rorikstead. As I get close to it, I see the most baffling series of events I've ever seen in Skyrim. First off, on the outskirts of town, I notice that there's a cow that's decided that gravity is for plebeians, so he took flight. But as I get closer, gravity takes its sweet revenge, and I yell, "No, Miltank!" as he comes plummeting to the ground at about Mach 12. However, there was a vampire attack on the city at the same time. I walk up to them fighting the guards, and because they summon the undead, now the cow is back, not flying anymore, but now fighting. As I summon Alicia to fight the vampires, a dragon busts in like the Kool-Aid Man with an "oh yeah." So now the cow, the vampires, the guards, and the dragon are all fighting with Alicia. Unfortunately, the cow is the first to bite the dust for the second time, followed by one of the guards, then the vampire, and finally Tony shows up to help end the dragon. As I stand there baffled by the series of events I've just witnessed, I find the guy who sells Hilda the goat, and he mentions nothing about the calamity he was just a part of, and instead just takes my money and I get a goat. But with all the confusion that had happened, I was too startled and I forgot to pick up my goat as I left. After forgetting my goat, I go and find Sweetroll the fox, but a dragon lands at the same time, really making me earn it. I do kill the dragon, then I give Sweetroll a sweet roll, because he's a man after my own heart. And then I look at my team. I realize at some point I picked up the spider Ariados, but I do not remember when, so yeah, my current team is Ariados, Sweetroll, Tony, and then whoever else I summon. Now we're on for our super exciting next adventure, to go to the library, where we end up finding a guy who might know something about an Elder Scroll. He used to be a teacher at the college, but apparently got fired for being too weird. So yeah, now we gotta go find him at his special igloo. So I go down and let that old guy ramble at me for a little bit. He then hands me a cube and a sphere and says, "Good luck finding the Elder Scroll." I then get on Meriadon at Dawnstar, and he takes me towards this dwarven place I can't pronounce. Probably a Pokemon region we haven't had yet. Anyway, once there, I end up descending and fighting the dwarven gym leader, who I send out so many Alicias to fight, I think I owe her agency money for the amount of performances I've requested. With gym badge number 6 in my hand, I end up going towards where this Elder Scroll is supposed to be. Apparently I have to do this puzzle to unlock it, which looks like a weird mix between DJing and astronomy. I do type it in right, and then I get my Elder Scroll. I take my Elder Scroll to the top of a mountain and figure out that it plays YouTube videos, which is pretty cool for paper. It teaches me how to yell at dragons correctly, and then the champion Hydreigon pops out of the sky, and I battle him using Wrathman. And I beat him, but then I am killed by a meteorite after the fight, so I have to do it all over again, which, don't worry, didn't piss me off at all. So I did the battle again, won again, and then the champion fled, claiming that that one didn't count because I don't have all my gym badges. Now I need to go capture a legendary Pokemon, but I can only do that at the Jarl of Whiterun's house, which he is not stoked about. So now I have to prevent war through diplomacy with the Elite Four. But before I do that, I'm gonna go do something I should have done a while ago. I learned a move called Soul Trap, which is a conjuration move that if I cast it on dead enemies, it'll still give me the experience. So I have Alicia go light this tree on fire until it dies, and then I just stare at it, casting Soul Trap until I hit level 100, which gives me access to having 2 of my conjured companions out at once, meaning I finally have double battles. So I finally go back to college for my senior year and ask what I can do for my thesis. Finis says I have to summon a super Pokemon that hates me and make it my friend, which seems bad, but okay. I go up and summon the Pokemon, and apparently Sweetroll the Fox had stolen this guy's girlfriend and said the most aggressive yo mama joke that this guy had ever heard, because he will just not stop running around and attacking my sweet little fox with an axe. So I reload a save and leave all my friends downstairs, and then I talk to the Pokemon who says he hates me and is trying to kill me. But I summon Wrathman, who beats him down using sick beats, probably for hanging out with Redman and Method Man. And then I summon Krabby Pants again, who tries to beat me to death again, but this time he beats Wrathy down. I summon my new Rock-type Pokemon, the Storm Atronach, and he beats our angry Shadow Pokemon to death. Obviously I need to name my new rock friend, who I call Dwayne. I summon Angry again, who agrees to go get me a rock. I then summon him again, and he brings me the rock. This was a weird gym battle, but now with my 7th gym badge and my bachelor's degree, I can finally go use my international relations degree to stop a civil war. So I go meet with Team Magma and Team Aqua, and they agree to come talk it out. This was the most boring gym battle I've ever participated in. But hey, who doesn't love a little model UN in the middle of our Pokemon game? I talk it out, get my 8th gym badge, and Whiterun guy is down to help me catch a legendary Pokemon on his porch. I show up, and Tony and Dwayne beat down Flapple until he's hooked in our trap. I then chat with little Flappy, and he says that he promises to be my homie. I release him, mount him, and ride off towards the championship fight. No one should teach this mount shout to the Kink 4. I doubt they would do good things with it. So now it's time for Victory Road, which is super basic. I summon both Wrathman and Dwayne to fight through it, and about halfway through I realize that Tony has decided to sit this one out and instead babysit Ariados and Sweetroll. Great. Anyway, we make our way to a priest who's curious if we've accepted Team Galactic into our hearts, but Wrathman is a devout atheist, and Dwayne is really not into cults, so they beat him down. I then jump into the portal to the end route. At the last route, I totally forget that I know the move Defog, which probably would have helped. I get to the end and I meet my rival, who's gotten really into weightlifting and apparently HGH because he's huge. I summon both Wrath and Dwayne, who deal with them, and then I get to go into the cool clubhouse with the former champions. After talking to the former champions, they tell me it's time for all of us to go yell at Fog together, which we do. And then the cheating champion, Baxcalibur, returns to fight me. Now, I was planning on using all the Pokemon I've collected thus far in kind of a cool showcase of the Pokedex, and I spawned most, if not all of them. The problem is some of them were pretty effective, but most of them were just atrocious. However, towards the end, I was super excited because it was time for me to summon my legendary Pokemon to fight this legendary Pokemon, and so I summoned my Eternatus, and it does nothing. My dragon just sat next to Alduin like they'd been old buds and did no damage whatsoever. Eventually it just took flight and flew around like it was trying to just give commentary on the whole fight. With my legendary doing circles above us, I noticed that the battle had stopped. Alduin had stopped fighting, and my companions had too, because I needed to be the one to do the killing blow. But that's not how Pokemon battles work. So I start trying different things to try to get my companions to kill him. I summon Alicia next to him, hoping that her area of effect damage would kill him. Nope, nothing. Then I summon some skeletons, who I'm hoping will be so jealous that he's alive that they'll eventually shoot him. But no, does not happen. And then I remember, I've dealt with this problem before. But even better than last time, I have a scroll of Summon Steve. That's right, our good boy from the beginning. This time I've got a Summon Familiar scroll, and so I go and I pick it up with telekinesis because we're getting ready for the greatest accident in the world to happen. And I throw it, and instead it hits my skeletons that I've spawned, and I really apologize to them, but hey, you know, you can't help but hit someone in confusion sometimes. After awkwardly retrieving Steve in his ball, I end up moving in front of Zekrom, where I raise Steve up, still in his ball, and then I accidentally release him, and he goes flying towards Zekrom, doing the tiniest amount of damage, and Zekrom, like a drama queen, then explodes. And I have defeated Skyrim as a Pokemon trainer. But wait, Team Rocket's still out there. We're not done yet. To get Team Rocket's attention, I go get hired by a child to commit the assassination of an orphanage lady, which again feels like it would really liven up the Pokemon games. I go to the orphanage and I was planning on summoning all my friends to deal with her, but to get her attention and to begin the fight, I just throw a single cup at her head, and apparently her face is made of paper mache because she immediately keels over and dies. I then get a note from Team Rocket that lets me know that they know that I know that they know that I committed a crime. I then take a power nap and get kidnapped by the leader of Team Rocket. She tells me that I need to kill someone else to even out that other killing that I just did, which is some pretty weird math, but okay. She then tells me I have to kill someone specifically in this room. I look around and see 3 hostages, but realize that she is also in this room. So I go full lawyer, Uno reverse Carter, and attack her. I then summon Dwayne and Wrathman to deal with her, and we have officially defeated the leader of Team Rocket. I then release the hostages because I'm a good type of murderer, and then I go tell a guard that I've committed a crime, but you know, for the people. He then tells me I need to go talk to the head of the police, who I go talk to, and then he informs me that I deserve the honor of killing the rest of Team Rocket. Which, like, dude, come on, why can't you help? This is just like Pokemon. I have to do everything myself. After figuring out where Team Rocket's HQ was, I go back to college to get my master's degree, which is a Pokemon called Dramora Lord. He comes with a flaming sword, which is awesome. I name him Inigo Montoya because I'm pretty sure someone killed this guy's father at the rate that he believes everyone else deserves to die. So after sneaking into their HQ, I spawn Inigo and Wrath, who take down the first Rocket leader, who barely puts up a fight. Then I walk further down to fight the Lizard Rocket guy. He fights back pretty hard, but being outnumbered, he takes a potion to try to go invisible and run, but Inigo sees right through this and then picks him up on his sword, which was not a gentle approach. I move further in, defeating their Pokemon very swiftly. I then go up against their Archer Lady, who also does not last long. We then fight Nazir, who is beheaded by Inigo. And I would show you that, but YouTube gets a little touchy with that, so just know it was intense. I eventually open up enough doors and find the last member of Team Rocket, some old guy, who is immediately defeated by my 2 dudes, and I've done it. I've defeated Team Rocket. I then go back and talk to the top cop, who gives me a reward that I would describe as paltry, especially for what I've just done. But I did it. I have defeated Skyrim as a Pokemon trainer, rid the world of Team Rocket, and here's my final team. We've got Sweetroll, Ariados, Tony, Wrathman the Rap God, Inigo, and the Scroll of Steve. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. It took 15 hours to just do the challenge, which, my god, was long. It was pretty fun, but definitely recommend getting to level 100 way earlier than I did just to get more summons. It makes things way easier. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment on what you'd like to see next. Have a great day.